Hello, everybody. This is John Lynn, lead programmer of BB Digital Lab LLC, and you are listening to or watching the BB&J Podcast. Excellent to be reaching your eyes and or ears. And today we're talking about the future of networking. Specifically, what's going to be going on with networking events and how the onset of virtual or the virtual live events is going to affect that. I think most people watching have done some degree of networking, whether it be, a local ribbon cutting ceremony or a big conference for experts in your field. I've certainly done a mix of both. With varying results, and I think most people probably had that. What you're getting out of it, what insight, what connections you're making. 2020 especially has really changed the game in terms of how we connect with people, how we do things like networking, I think as many people will know. So the question is, what does that mean for the future? What does that mean for 2021, more realistically 2022 and 2023, the rest of the 20s. And let's start with networking events in 2020. What was going on with them? There were a lot that had to get canceled last minute. Major events. I mean, I was planning on going to the Midwest Digital Marketing Conference. Excellent experience, great professionals in the field, and a wonderful opportunity overall to gain invaluable insight. But that got moved to virtual because I believe it was going to happen in March. So that was the case for a lot of these events, right? A lot of these meet and greets, a lot of these mixers, they got moved to online. And I think we saw a key issue of inconsistency, right? Some of them were great. Some of them were beautifully executed, allowing for that invaluable insight to occur. Some of them weren't. And that's not really their fault. There's a lot of last minute things, and any sort of virtual event would have, taken off or done really well even like 2 years ago. But we had so many virtual events that our bar became a lot higher, and the novelty critically wore off because, hey, Zoom meeting, it's so fun. How long did that last? For some people, that didn't last at all. For some people, it lasted a week or two, and then it's like, oh gosh, I have to go on Zoom. I have to make sure everyone's coordinated, or whatever, virtual meeting platform you're using, or if for the webinars or the networking events, they're trying to do their own thing. Critically, that one-on-one in-person interaction, we really lost that in 2020. That's something that it's incredibly challenging to do online, right? So a lot of people, myself included, had to change the way we approached networking and change the way we connected with people. So while we lost that physical interaction of actually talking to each other, shaking someone's hand, you can still interact with people. You can still connect with people. I mean, LinkedIn really blew up for that reason, where you can connect with professionals. You can, and that connection, the communications that you have in LinkedIn can convert to Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever you may be using, FaceTimes, where, you're not physically seeing this person, but you can be connecting with anyone from the convenience of your home, and they can be connecting from the convenience of their home. So that barrier of location or how far away you can be, it went away, dissolved entirely. You know, I can connect with someone living in Myanmar and have all sorts of video chats with them, work with them professionally. I don't have to see them at a networking event. I don't have to see them at a seminar or anything like that. I can find them on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it may be. I mean, even TikTok. I've found some major players in the digital marketing / web design space, but I can talk to that person regularly with the consistency that not necessarily that wasn't available, but a lot of people, myself included, didn't realize was available to us, that we didn't realize it was as effective. So while some forms of networking really struggled, that in person, you know, like you're in a circle and you're talking to people, whether that be your friends or a group of professionals, that's something you really lost. You know, those groups of conversations, really, really hard to do online or on Zoom or through a video platform. But I think one-on-one interactions became a lot more scalable, a lot more systematic, a lot more variable in like how far you could reach people, what kind of people you could reach. Because if I go to a marketing conference, I'm not going to see a medical practice or a real estate owner, or a real estate broker, but I still want to connect with those people. So I can do that, and that's expected now. A lot more platforms, people are going to them. People are actually interacting. People are posting. I mean, before 2020, I don't think I'd ever posted on LinkedIn. I barely had a profile. I had like 40 connections. But with 2020, I can't do in-person events anymore. Maybe I should start filling that out. Maybe I should start posting regularly. Maybe I should start interacting and engaging with people, other professionals on the platform. I know I'm focusing on LinkedIn, but this is true for so many different platforms. You know, directly calling and messaging businesses through their Facebook pages. That's a thing now. There really wasn't a thing to the same degree it is, or in a large systematic way as it is now. And that's all thanks to, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. This is the perfect example. But let's move on to what in-person events I think will kind of survive the test of time. And once we start doing in-person things again, what's going to continue? I think that what we've seen is, all those general community mixers, or the general events where you're seeing a bunch of different people that may or may not be related to what you're doing. And like at most, there's a business card that sits in your wallet for 10 years. I don't think those events are really coming back. Or if they are, a lot of people are just not going to go to them anymore because they're like, oh, wait a minute. Was I really getting anything from those? Was my business or was my professional development that affected by not going to them? And I don't think that's the case. I think that I don't think that those are going to be as prominent or as this is the thing you have to do as they were even in 2019. Now, the networking events that we might still see is, for lack of a better term, the presentation events, right? So if you went to college and you were especially in STEM, you probably have heard about these. You probably know about them. Okay. So these kind of events, professional events, especially, where you are showcasing your work. So a big thing is, as I was saying, like the STEM field, publishing research, presenting your research, presenting your findings, I think that's still going to be incredibly important, because you get that one-on-one Q&A or that group Q&A that you don't necessarily. It's kind of limited, especially over text, right? Over comments, the presentation of information. Now, that's not to say that you won't have people presenting their work and their findings online. I mean, you see that now. I see that on TikTok. It's like, hey, I did this research. Here's what it was. Here's my findings. I think that's super cool. But the thing about online is, I mean, we've all seen misinformation. We've all seen, the studies or the data that's just totally bogus. Maybe like, there's those articles written about a study, and it's like, did you read this study? Because it says literally the polar opposite thing that you're saying that it says. And that vetting really is a lot more effective, or at least we think that it's a lot more effective in person. Mentally, we are a lot more critical of what we see online, kind of, or we just kind of pass it by. It just kind of gets absorbed into our brain. Don't think about the researcher. But if you're in person, seeing the researcher, talking to them, seeing the data, seeing the end result of all their work, it's going to give you a much more nuanced and better informed understanding. Like I said, that doesn't mean that everything you see online is fake, but our perception of seeing research in person is a lot different than seeing research online. So these kind of events are also great ways to connect with other professionals in your field, and have those very critical, I'll call them circle discussions for now, where a bunch of people talking in a circle. Maybe they all, everyone exchanges business cards at the end of the talk. That's super useful. You can't get that online. And events that really foster and encourage that, I think, are still going to be going on. But some of the other events, I think in-person events in general are just going to get are going to kind of recede a lot compared to what we've seen previously. Last thing I'd like to talk about is the future of virtual networking, kind of the opposite, right? So what virtual networking is going to continue? As I talked about, the things that I think are going to really stick around are personalized interactions, but also those seminars, those summits, the learning. Because now, if there's an excellent speaker, but they're based in Amsterdam, I don't have to go to Amsterdam to see them, or they don't have to fly to the US to see me, right? And a lot of people realize, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to get a hotel. I don't have to do all the flying. I don't have to do the travel. I can just do this. I can see these professionals. I can learn about this stuff from the comfort of my own home. On the other side of the presenters, I don't have to go fly to an area. I don't have to, rent a space. I don't have to secure the parking. I don't have to make sure everything's set up, and maybe some food vendors or some free food and like all this different stuff. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, how much does a virtual event cost? A heck of a lot less than an in-person one, I'll tell you that. So I think in terms of presenters, especially the webinar style events are really going to take off and solidify as like a major presenter of information. Workshops, virtual webinar, the lunch and learns or whatever it is, I think a lot of those are going to move to online, and I think a lot of them are going to stay online. So yeah, that in-person events or the one-on-one interaction oriented events, I think those are probably going to stay online, stay virtual in large part. We're going to see virtual events a lot more systematized, a lot more platforms to make it a lot easier and in a consistent manner for people to host them. And in-person events are going to die, but virtual events are going to become a lot more relevant and important. Even than they were, I mean, this year, I think they were probably at a localized peak, but we're going to see their importance in a way we haven't seen for a while. I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. We'll have a new podcast this Thursday, so I look forward to seeing you then, and make sure to like and subscribe.